If a holiday for you means really exploring the heart of a destination whilst relaxing in luxurious and intimate surroundings, then keep watching Planet Cruise Weekly, as today we take a look at long-haul river cruising. Well, hello and welcome to episode 43 of Planet Cruise Weekly. You can see I'm rejoined by the beautiful, they're very tanned, Jade, who's just been to Costa Rica, I believe.
Yeah, it was really lovely.
Now today we're going to be talking about long-haul river cruising, and I often describe this as the fastest way to slow down, because that's really the essence of a river cruise, slowing down and enjoying the surroundings.
The big limitation of cruise ships is the fact that they can only tour the main coastal cities of a country, whereas many of the world's greatest cities are inland and grew as a direct result from their proximity to a river. So this is where the river cruising has a clear advantage.
Now, river cruising has become increasingly popular over the past few years, and it's now the fastest growing sector of the cruise industry. And in episode 38, if you remember, we told you all about the short-haul European river cruising destinations. If you want to watch that episode, click the link. But today, it's all about long-haul opportunities, the far-flung exotic rivers of the Asias and the Americas.
With its mystical temples and exotic sights, sounds and smells, Asia offers a rich and vibrant experience for any traveller. And there's perhaps no better way to experience Asia than in the comfort of a luxurious river cruise ship. Cruising through Vietnam and Cambodia on the Mekong has become a bucket list staple for many cruisers. And those who want to make a push further ahead can try Burma's Irrawaddy, China's Yangtze or America's Mississippi.
Okay, so before we go into too much detail, we're going to have a quick look at some of the basics of river cruising.
River cruising shares many similarities with ocean cruising. Mealtimes are a major focal point for the day. The itineraries are port intensive, but on board the experience is more of a laid back, relaxed atmosphere compared to the ocean going voyages.
Now on board, river ships feel like smaller versions of their seagoing cousins, and that's because really they are smaller versions. There's a maximum of around about 256 guests, but the average tends to be between around about 150 and 170. So they're much more intimate, they offer a more personalised service and experience. But as you would expect, this also does mean a reduced selection of onboard facilities compared with their ocean-going cousins. Now, the itineraries may incorporate major cities as cornerstones, but your experience is going to focus much more on the smaller towns and villages that you come across along the way. And this means a far more authentic and less touristy experience.
And one big difference between the river cruising and ocean cruising is that with river operators, they often include their shore excursions within the price of your cruise, typically guided walking tours, and also some of the ships even carry bicycles which you can use at the different ports and just explore the area.
Now, due to the short distances between the ports, full days of river cruising are very rare. However, there is usually a commentary over the public address system during those longer sails, and these tend to be very special areas like the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze.
Now, beyond meal times, entertainment on board may be limited to shuffleboard or book reading. These ships carry no casinos and have very little in the way of evening entertainment, except perhaps a piano player, a singer, or a local performer brought on to perform. Okay,
so now we're going to have a look at what we feel are probably the big four rivers to cruise on that are long haul. Now, we've picked four. There are more than this, so apologies if your particular favourite one isn't in. The first one we're going to look at is the Yangtze, and this is a river I'm yet to cruise, and I cannot wait. I really can't wait, Jade. It's such an amazing place. I've seen so many photos, heard so many experiences. Basically, it rises in a place called the Tibet Plateau, and it flows east across the entire width of China until it empties into the East China Sea near Shanghai.
A cruise along this mighty river in a country that was closed to the outside world for centuries, it's a real journey of discovery. China actually began to develop its tourism industry in the late 1970s, and to many outsiders, it's still a land shrouded in mystery. making it exciting, fascinating destination for even the most seasoned travellers.
And most itineraries will also include land stays, usually in Beijing, Chiang and Shanghai, which is a real contrast between the vibrant modern cities and then the secluded rural areas. So from these big cities, you're going to have opportunities to take land tours. You'll be able to see the Great Wall of China, the Terracotta Army, Tiananmen Square, and of course the legendary Forbidden City.
The Three Gorges Dam is the world's largest dam and took 17 years and more than an estimated $28 billion to build. So a tour is a must, and sailing through the 5-step lock adjacent to the dam is another highlight of any Yangtze River cruise.
Now, passengers leave their cruise ships and they board smaller vessels to sail through the narrow and breathtaking lesser Three Gorges region, or region even, not reason. And this is lined by sheer cliffs and mountains. We always say bring binoculars for this because you really get a chance to have a close-up view of what they call the hanging coffins of the ancient people of Bar, and they cling to the rock face. And also you'll probably get a chance to see the plank road and perhaps the monkeys that inhabit the banks there. It's really amazing.
If you want to see the pandas, then Chongqing Zoo is a great place to see them. The best time to get photos is in the morning when they're being fed and they're munching their way through the piles of bamboo.
Now, during the course of the cruise, you'll also discover an array of totally unique experiences, from sampling Peking duck made the traditional way to during a night at the Chinese opera, you'll see exquisitely costumed performers sing, act and perform the legendary acrobatics that the Chinese are so famed for. And I know you've seen it, it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen, the Chinese circus.
The Beijing Acrobatic Circus, yeah, absolutely amazing. The best time to cruise the Yangtze is during the main season of April to October. So although some lines operate outside these months, those are the best months to go.
Now, river cruise lines sailing the Yangtze include Viking River Cruises, AP Touring, Avalon Waterways, Uniworld and a company called TAP. Now, it wouldn't be Planet Cruise Weekly without some tips, and for the Yangtze, we want to say this. First of all, everyone visiting China requires a prepaid tourist visa, and this has got to be obtained from your local Chinese embassy prior to arrival in China.
Second of all, shore excursions are typically longer and more often a little bit more challenging than your European cruise ships. A moderate level of fitness is required as terrain can be rugged and uneven.
Now, the Chinese currency is the renminbi, or the RMB as it's known, and the basic unit is the yuan. Now, while large stores do take credit cards, you will need to take cash to buy souvenirs in smaller shops and markets, and you won't be able to use sterling or dollars as you can around a lot of the rest of the world. So the second of the great rivers that we're going to look at today is the Mekong.
So the Mekong is fed by snowmelt from the Himalayas of Tibet. The Mekong flows 2,700 miles to the sea in South Vietnam. The Vietnamese actually call it the Nine Dragons River for the 9 branches of the Mekong Delta where the land and water intertwine to make the perfect conditions for growing rice.
Now, although it flows through 6 countries and feeds scores of people along the way, the Mekong is actually one of Asia's least developed rivers. And that's thanks to the lack of industry along the banks. It teems with life. In fact, its biodiversity is second to none. And in fact, many argue it's actually more biodiverse than even the Amazon. So the wildlife you're likely to encounter will be simply mind-blowing. Now, regards when to go, although the Mekong River itineraries are offered for most of the year, the optimum time to go is during the winter, from November through to February. And that's when the cooler and the rainy season, which runs from July through to October, has passed. But even during the rainy season rains, dramatic while they are, they only tend to last around about 30 minutes. Now, be aware as well that most of the Mekong River cruises come as part of long tours, like 2 weeks or more, and they often are land tours. They include several nights in hotels as well as overnights on board the ship, and most start and end in Vietnam, beginning in Hanoi and then ending in Ho Chi Minh City or vice versa. And they normally all include a flight to Siem Reap and then a sail on the Mekong, which ports in Cambodia and Vietnam. Confused? We are as well.
River cruise lines sailing the Mekong are Amma Waterways, Avalon Waterways, Uniworld, Viking Cruises and Croisière Europe. Now, some quick tips. Take and use lots of insect repellent, preferably with DEET, especially if you are prone to mosquito bites like me. And also plan for heat and be an adventurous but smart eater.
And if you do decide to be adventurous, then send photos, please. Now, the third of the major rivers we're going to talk about today for the long-haul destinations is Irrawaddy. It might be a new one for some of you, but I'm sure you'll have heard of Burma or Myanmar. which really is a place that less than a decade ago was only for the intrepid few, but today travellers from all over the world are descending on this beguiling country.
It's now more accessible than ever. The nation's capital, Yangon, formerly Rangoon, is served by an increasing array of international air routes, which is perfect for travellers bound for a short river cruise on the Irrawaddy River.
Now, the Irrawaddy River has shaped Burma's history, and it's the country's economic lifeblood and inseparable from Burmese spiritual life. Now, a Burma river cruise experience is far removed from that which is the norm on the European rivers, like maybe the Rhine or the Danube. Vessels range from the ultra-luxury to the more traditional Burmese style, but what they do have in common is the incomparable scenery that they're going to experience.
Cruises can be anything from 4 to 12 days, and the monsoon rains start early May and often continue into October. Due to the levels on the Irrawaddy, the seasons for cruises between Mandalay and Bagan runs from September through to April. And this is the same for longer sailings between Yangon in the south and Bagan and Mandalay in the north.
And the main highlight is Bagan, the former capital of the Burmese Empire and the spiritual heart of Burma. And though many of the original pagodas have crumbled into oblivion, there are still thousands rising from the dusty terrain. Now, the former royal capital of Mandalay is still regarded as the most Burmese of the cities. It's a true site of old colonial Burma. Now, tours visit a place called Kothador Pagoda, where there's 729 pillars that are inscribed with Buddhist writing and scriptures, and also the Golden Palace Monastery with these exquisite wood carvings. Now, the river cruise lines sailing Irrawaddy are Avalon, Amber Waterways, AP Touring, Scenic, and also Viking river cruises. Now, some tips for sailing the Irrawaddy would be getting your visa. First of all visitors to Burma require a visa, and this can be obtained through the local consulate.
US dollars is widely used in Burma, but it is essential that the notes are in mint condition. Small denomination notes are always useful for souvenirs in remote villages, so make sure you've got plenty of those. And of course, clothing. Make sure you've got suitable cover-ups for shoulders and knees when you're entering temples and religious sites.
If you do want more details, because there's a lot there, and it's a very popular part of the world to visit at the moment, then click the link there and it will put you through to some of our cruise destination experts such as Jade. Now we're going to talk about the Mississippi, probably a more well-known river to many of you, and of course it's North America's most iconic waterway. Now, because it's so long, the Mississippi River is usually divided into three parts. You've got the lower Mississippi, which is New Orleans to Memphis, the middle Mississippi, which is Memphis to St. Louis, and the upper Mississippi, which is St. Louis to St. Paul's. Now, the scenery along the river is generally prettier and the wildlife more prevalent the farther north you are on the river.
Explore New Orleans in Louisiana. Thick with atmosphere, New Orleans is world famous for its annual Mardi Gras celebration, the beautiful French Quarter neighbourhood, and great Southern and Creole cooking, some of the world's best jazz music.
Their barbecues are out of this world. They really, really are. Another gem, though, is Vicksburg, Mississippi. This is the site of a famous Civil War battlefield, and Vicksburg also offers visitors a glimpse into real Southern heritage with these antebellum plantations, the old churches and restored train depots, and a superb military park where visitors can learn all about the siege and defence of the city.
And of course you'll visit Memphis, Tennessee, which the king of rock and roll called home. Although Elvis's home is the city's biggest tourist attraction, Memphis is more than just Graceland.
Now, the lower Mississippi has the longest season, which typically runs from November through to December, and then from April through to mid-June, whereas due to water levels, the upper Mississippi itineraries don't typically begin sailing until July. Now, the Mississippi is also dominated by two companies that ply it on a regular basis. You've got the American Cruise Lines, who operate the Queen of the Mississippi, and also the American Eagle on the lower and upper Mississippi, while the American Queen Steamboat Company operates its namesake boat, the American Queen, on all the Mississippi, and all of the ships are traditional paddle steamers.
Now, European river cruise operator Viking River Cruises do plan to sail the Mississippi using New Orleans as its home port, although a launch date has not yet been specified, so watch this space. The ships will not be paddle wheelers, however. Instead, they'll have the company's signature longship style, and they will focus on enrichment during your cruise.
Any more information on the Mississippi and the cruise lines that go there, click the link. What we want to do now is take literally a minute of your time to give you some river cruising tips. The first one will be to pace your sightseeing schedule. You know, there are so many attractions to visit and explore, it can really be tempting to try and squeeze in as much as possible. The danger of that is you'll exhaust yourself, you won't fully appreciate all the sights. So what we recommend is you alternate activity-packed port visits with relaxing coffee and lunches in the next port. Really try and do a mix, unless you want to have a holiday after your holiday, which may be advisable.
You will walk a lot, so just pack with this in mind. Bring a pair of comfortable shoes. Most river cruise include shore excursions, like we've mentioned before, within the cost of the cruise, and a vast majority of these will involve walking. So remember, quaint old cities and towns are beautiful, but also often full of cobblestones.
Now don't forget to bring a good book and be prepared to relax, because compared with the non-stop entertainment and activities offered on board the ocean cruise ships, river cruises are typically much more laid-back affairs. And finally, enjoy yourself and enjoy your fill, because drinks are often included. Now, meals, we pretty much know, are always included on cruises, river cruises, but the quality of the food on board river cruises is exceptional, and for those that like a tipple, wine and beer are often included with the meals, so enjoy. Now, hopefully that's been of use. If not, get in touch and tell us why not, because we do love your feedback. And if you do want to feedback to us, Jade, how do they get in touch?
You can write to us at hello@planetcruise.co.uk. You can comment on this video, you can message us on Facebook or on Twitter.
Yeah, so lots of different ways, and please do get in touch, because again, this show and everything we do on our YouTube channel is shaped by you. Now, we do want to say a thank you to these people who got in touch recently, and this is all to do with the response that we've had to being shortlisted for the TTG Top Cruise Agency of 2017. And we have people responding to this. Andrew Jarvis gave us a selection of different emojis, as he's prone to do, and put cruise in the middle of it. There we go, so thank you, Andrew. Stella Briggs said they are top of my list. By they, she meant Planet Cruise, which is very nice of you. Thanks, Stella. And Chris Bradley said, mine too. Good luck, not that you need it. So thank you very much, Chris, as well. So apparently we don't need the luck, but I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. Thank you very much for your votes, and thank you for the nomination in the first place. Have a great week from myself and Jade. Toodaloo.